It's not, the Apple TV, I think, has been, I don't see the box that runs the Apple TV, and I don't think the TV can have both Apple and Roku built in.
If you choose computer over there, Glenn,
Try
well,
that.
Yeah, try that.
Well, I tried that, but,
They didn't like it?
well, it doesn't
No,
doesn't
you
tell me
didn't.
anything. Remove HDMI.
Go back one.
Well, we can go to HDMI mode there.
HDMI one?
Yeah, try that.
Let's see.
Is it over here or over there? Or down here?
There's something right there.
You what? I know, I know,
Until I got
I know, I know how you are.
That's another,
Okay. You see it?
She's smart enough to.
I think I do.
Nothing new.
Open the door and then I waited
I'm gonna guess the top one is HDMI one.
We would think. Well, we're gonna let us be a one accord, Nate.
Yeah, really. Curly cord. See if that'll go into your dongle there. And we'll, see if we can direct connect this.
Well, it says that HDMI 2 is checked, so try that one. Oh,
Well, I was just trying to, I have a,
hurry up.
ARC.
Did you see the 2 is, oh,
You would think that the one in the middle would have to be two, whether you start from the bottom or the top, right?
you need a light? You see that HDMI 2 was checked down, oh, because you just picked it, so. Well, maybe I need to do something on my display. Do I need to do that?
I'm not familiar with that.
brother? How are you? Brenda took, Scotty to there is now a person here in town.
Hang on,
Tom,
here's everybody.
and
Okay.
they went and they said.
There you go.
It's really not enough to,
Well,
Okay.
so it's so close to the muscle.
Right,
right. Okay.
And I mean, he does all sorts of stuff, holds his tongue, and so I think she was really hoping this, because right now, he just
right next to Wendy.
can't figure out how to take fast fire. Still doesn't. Yeah.
But I mean, she can figure it out either.
Yeah.
She nurses now, she did not at first.
Yeah, I think he's not had a problem with that, it's just trying to get him to take a bottle.
Should we just connect this, you think?
Yeah.
I don't know the
She got a
connection.
new one coming in today.
Oh, yeah, something to go,
Yeah.
to go tomorrow.
It's still trying here.
Mine's doing exceptionally well.
Oh, we're,
Yeah,
I think we're about 3 weeks out.
it is. I'm liking what we're doing.
Maybe sleeping pretty well, rolling and.
Maybe airplanes.
You'll be better than they.
Yeah.
They harass them, okay?
We told them the second.
See, it's a lot.
Yeah.
They don't need everything.
working on your team.
Ben thinks across the line.
Oh,
I think we did.
well, you would
Ben
think,
Couples.
you would think if they're.
You still have the spring here.
Yeah, but he tell me they're two guys. Jackson office figured it out. One of them was Trey, the other was Rodney Stegall, so.
I know.
Perch. I don't know what, you know, his name, but I can't remember what he does.
We've been at JAG time, asked if she was crying, we couldn't do anything. Called Marilyn, came up to see us, Marilyn picked her up and started walking around. Boom.
But
In reality,
Southwest, right?
in reality,
Yeah, she got 5 kids.
I reference
What she's doing, we've done okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you would think though, if it was do good there, that they might go somewhere else instead of.
Today, I probably had two good
I thought he was working for
30-minute
delivery.
sessions with her. She came over and bought Parker, I kinda held him.
I thought he was
Later,
doing
Chick-fil-A's been around for a while.
But I don't really know for sure.
The delivery service you're talking about, like Amazon driver or something?
Or like, UPS, FedEx, some of it. Somewhere I heard that, I
See,
don't.
it's saying HDMI.
But the one at Trenton, we looked up, and it said $24,000.
Well, let's try that one more time, since that seems to be what it's on.
Online in Trenton.
You're on live stream.
You said Trenton, Trenton, Tennessee, I thought, what's going on in Trenton, Tennessee?
I don't know what
HDMI's the top
I'm
one.
doing necessary.
Give it a try.
He's got time. He's got time. But Ben, look, Ben said, you know, it's impossible to make the best time to do it is to, maybe hire a fiber Southwest. And then once you get your foot in the door, if you're doing a good job, I know when you figure that else, then you're in a position as a good employee already
Thank you,
to
Dave.
jump on
I still don't get
that,
excited.
that's what you want to do, see. Like, Ben's son is up in water and
I'll
wastewater
feel it.
department, he wants to be a lineman. But he said after there's 4 or 5 guys, that are linemen that have been working a little longer than he did. So, he's 19, he's one, he's just a year older.
Transition to a lineman when you
You're
come
like-
back training.
It doesn't matter.
If you're already, like, Mark could show up and he's not an employee. And then those guys have been an employee, he's had the, you know, the schooling, these people are already employees. They would be above
People
him.
already probably say.
It's ridiculous.
Well, it is time to start. In fact, we're 1 minute late, so, I guess you know what that means. I don't, but maybe you do. Thanks for being here tonight, and, you know, as we go about our lives, you know, different things happen at different times, and so, tonight as we approach scripture, I appreciate your prayers, just, dealing with lots of different odds and ends and stuff, just like we do from time to time. So let's have a prayer to begin with, and Adam, since you're here tonight, can I pick on you a little bit? Would you mind, leading us in prayer as we begin and get ready to continue here with our study in 1 Timothy, okay?
Let's pray. Father God, we're grateful to come before your throne tonight, thankful for a beautiful day in your earth, and Lord, we're grateful for the time we spent together enjoying a meal tonight as family. Lord, I pray that we'll use this time to better our understanding of your word, that you've preserved for us to be able to know your will for us. And Lord, we're so grateful for your son Jesus. We're grateful for his life, his example, his willingness to carry the weight of the world and the sin that we all commit on his shoulders, and die the death that we deserve so that we might have hope of eternity. Thank you for the gift of your Holy Spirit. I pray that you'll fill us and help our lives be filled with the fruit of the Spirit. And Lord, I pray that you continue to bless us throughout the rest of the week and keep us out of harm's way. I love you and thank you for Jesus.
Amen. Thank you very much, Adam. Okay, so we're going to be in 1 Timothy 3, and going to be looking at really the section, at least we like the section that has to do with what we often would call qualifications for deacons. And this is going to be an interesting thing for us. So I'm gonna ask us to do something at the beginning. I'm gonna get you count off in threes, okay? And then what the homework is that you're going to have to remember what number you are until we get closer to the end of the class, and then we're going to do something with those numbers. So you all know how to do this, right? You know what I mean? So we start here. All right.
2,
3. 1. 2. 3. 1.
2, 3.
Okay, very good. So you got your numbers, right? Okay, so we'll need those just a little later, because we do have a part that we're going to have a discussion groups and that kind of thing. So we are talking in this section from this letter by Paul to this, we often say young preacher Timothy. I don't know how we know, He's just younger than Paul for sure. We don't really know his age. Some people have conjectured what his age was. And I think he was probably about 73. And so that would make him a young preacher. That's a little joke there, a little thing, a little humor on the side. So you can chuckle if you want to. All right, so he's writing to Timothy, who is in what city? Do you remember? Hard things. Okay. Look back and verse 3 of chapter 1. Where was it? Don't everybody say it at once now. Where? Ephesus. All right, good. He's in the city of Ephesus, and again, all of this goes back to a lot of things that coincide in Acts about the establishment of the church in Ephesus and things they went through, a riot, and a whole bunch of other stuff that went on. But still, we have a church that's there, and Timothy is there ministering in such a way, and a lot of it has to do with the church itself. A lot of it has to do with helping Timothy to avoid and teach them not to get into false teaching and things like this. But it also then has to do with how to progress in what we know as church. So we need to read verses 8 through 13. I think we've already read pretty well the verses 1 through 7 that talk mainly about the office of elders or bishops. I think it's the more literal word in the passage, but again, we know that there are at least 3 words that have to do with that overseeing sense of pastoring and giving examples and things like that. And now we want to get down to this section that has to do with deacons. So somebody read for us verses 8 through 13, please. Who'd be willing to do that? Okay, Adam, you got that. Adam, you're on tonight, full steam ahead here.
Verse 8.
Verse 8 to 13.
Deacons likewise must be dignified, not double-tongued, not addicted to much wine, not greedy for dishonest gain. They must hold the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience, and let them be also be tested first. Then let them serve as deacons if they prove themselves blameless. Their wives likewise must be dignified, not slanderers, but sober-minded, faithful in all things. Let deacons each be the husband of one wife, managing their children and their own households well. For those who serve well as deacons gain a good standing for themselves and also great confidence in the faith that is in Christ Jesus.
Okay, so I guess our first task is to be able to, hello? Oh, because I pulled it out? No, it's not working. Well, boy, we're just not working tonight at all. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. I just looked up and I found this article that has to do with elders and deacons, and I just really appreciated this quote from a guy named Benjamin Merkel, and he just made this observation about, as we call them, the qualifications of elders and deacons. Maybe we can twist it just this way a little bit. No, we can't. Okay, we can tear it out of the wall, I guess, and try that. But anyway, what he says is the similarities of the qualifications for deacons and elders or overseers in 1 Timothy 3 are striking. Like the qualifications for elders, a deacon must not be an addict. Verse 3, I think it says there, not addicted to much wine or given to much wine is the old King James Version. Must not be an addict, not greedy for dishonest gain, blameless, the husband of one wife, and able to an able manager of his children and household, verses 4 and 5, which again those references are back up to what they said about elders. Furthermore, the focus of the qualifications is the moral character of the person who is to fill the office. A deacon must be mature and above reproach. The main difference between an elder and a deacon is a difference of gifts and calling, not character. So I thought that was especially that at the very end of it, the idea of character of both an elder and a deacon, and I guess we could probably term any other church worker or minister as well, should carry these same qualifications. Oftentimes we've mentioned that about the only difference between the two in terms of qualifications. Anybody recall what that one often is cited to be? Between the two lists of qualifications of elders and deacons? and it really kind of comes from Titus, that he must have what kind of children?
Believing.
Believing children.
Right, and that's given for an elder, but it is not here for a deacon, which has always left us the impression that elders were older and their children were more mature and able to be making those kinds of choices, where a deacon's children may not be of that age. Now, of course, it doesn't disqualify a guy if he's got older children who are believers. It just means that that's one of the major differences there. Anybody know what the word deacon comes from, what it means literally? Anybody got an idea?
It's more of a transliteration than a translation,
Right,
because it comes from diakonos, which means servant.
servant, okay? To serve. And sometimes, I think I've got a note on this later, but since we're here right now, if you go back to Acts chapter 6, sometimes it is stated that we have, and in fact, my little subtitle, not inspired by God, but my little subtitle in my Bible says, the first deacons. Now, why is that? Because here it has to do with when the apostles realized that the attention given to the widows is not up to what it should be, it says that the apostles, in contemplating this, it is not right that we should give up preaching the word of God to serve tables. And there, that same word, diakonos, is used. And so some people say, well, this means this is the appointing of the first deacons. And, I'm not going to necessarily contend that, except that the qualifications here for these 7 men that were chosen aren't the same that we're seeing here in 1 Timothy 3. And that's the only thing that I can say at that point. Now, was that because, it was earlier on in the ministry, in the work of the church? I don't know. But at any rate, that's what we sometimes say is we're the choosing of the first deacons, because that is about service. That also comes into play, if I could say this, the reference, what is it, in Acts 16:1, to, I think, a sister in the church who was, sometimes the translation says that she was a deaconess.
Romans 16:1.
Yeah, what does it say, Acts? I meant to say Romans, thank you. But it's Romans 16:1. I was turning to Romans in my Bible, but I just said the wrong thing. I don't know what's the matter with me. But in Romans 16:1, he says, I commend to you our sister Phoebe, and in this translation it says a deaconess of the church of Cenchreae, okay? Well, that's an interesting idea, but it's just the word somebody who serves. Now, does that mean it's a reference to 1 Timothy 3, being a deacon? What would be the problem with a woman being a deacon according to 1 Timothy 3?
Or to be the husband of one wife.
Yeah, got to be the husband of one wife. And since it's stating that, then that makes it a little difficult, seemingly, that deacons should be men. And also, it would seem that the office of a bishop and also of an elder, along with the office of a deacon, is about some sense of leadership that maybe a woman should not give, and we've already talked about that, and from 1 Timothy 2. Doesn't mean that there's inequality. It just has to do somewhat, even with what was said there at the end, between the difference in elder and deacon. It's not a difference of, it is a difference of gifts and calling, not character. Here it's a difference of gifts and calling, but not gender. It's not about that. It's just we're called to do different things. Now, in the passage, you can see that some people in verse 11 say the women likewise, and there they're thinking, okay, the women meaning the women who would be deaconesses, perhaps. The problem with that is, since he's already stated that, describing deacons, and then he says in the very next verse, let deacons be the husband of one wife. So oftentimes it has been translated that this has to do with the wives of deacons. Now, it does strike me, and I told my wife this today, I said, interesting that we have qualifications for deacons' wives. There's nothing said about elders' wives. Why that is, I don't know. But here it seems to bring that out. So anyway, this is what Paul is saying that you should be, to serve, to be a servant. The idea is to do a particular job. Similarly, if we go back to Acts 6, what were those 7 men chosen to do? They were chosen to administer and care for the widows. And the problem was that the Greek widows were not being attended well, whereas the Hebrews or Jewish widows were. And it's interesting to note that the choosing of those 7 men to serve in that capacity all have Greek names, seeking for balance so that those men might equally care for the widows who were Greeks or Gentiles in that case. Anyway, interesting things. So here are the qualifications. Verse 8 says a deacon needs to be, in the RSV it says, serious. Another way, I think maybe, Adam, your translation said dignified, which I have up there, is one of the other ones. In other words, serious meaning dignified, and it goes on to mean someone who is honorable, respectable, esteemed, and worthy. So the idea that they are again of good character, and it starts out with that. Then it says not double-tongued, and that's sort of someone who says maybe one thing to one person and then goes and says something else to another one, maybe the complete contrary of what was said here. A lot of times that's done to try to keep everybody happy, as it were, but it means that you don't necessarily stand for truth very well. So not double-tongued, someone who says one thing to one person and something else to another. And of course you can be double-tongued in other ways. You can just flat out lie about some things to some people, and that's the way it would go. Then it goes on to say, not addicted to much wine. Now, it doesn't say not addicted to a little bit of wine, but I guess addiction is the key word here. And again, we see oftentimes the references to the fact that some wine is okay, but obviously the problem comes with addictions. It comes with abuse, comes with drunkenness that causes your life to be out of control. So obviously someone who's very self-controlled and having to do with alcohol, not greedy for gain. Well, we're kind of glad for that one, aren't we? Don't know how that necessarily plays in to a deacon. I know it's a reference to a deacon being supported or paid to be a deacon. I don't know, but I think maybe generally it's just saying someone who doesn't seek, who is not greedy for material things, and therefore you wouldn't want them to be deacons either. I think this is an interesting expression in verse 9, who hold the mystery of our faith with a clear conscience. Paul uses this idea of the mystery of the gospel oftentimes. Anybody have an idea what he might be meaning when he says the mystery? Is it a mystery about our salvation, the gospel, or what is it?
The NIV says deep truths.
Deep truths, okay? And maybe mystery would play into that, how, Kelly? If you're going to use one or the other, but a deep truth might be a... Yeah, or it'd be something that's harder to understand.
Right.
Okay, yeah. So a mystery, and he uses...
Sometimes it means that something that has been hidden, but now is disclosed.
Okay, right. And I think that's really the sense of it, because to me it's also the sense of grace. Why? How does a God who created me have so much mercy for me? That's a great mystery.
Skip down to 16. Are you going to go there?
Yeah, I was going to go there just now, but since you're on it, go ahead.
Well, I was actually studying these verses last week. I thought I'd get to them, but I didn't.
Okay.
But I was wondering, what in the world is the mystery of, and then I looked down and said, well, there it is. It says, without question, this is my version, this is the great mystery of our faith. Christ was revealed in a human body and vindicated by the Spirit. He was seen by angels, announced to the nations, and was believed in throughout the world, and taken up to heaven in glory. It seems to be, like you said, the elements of the gospel, elements of our faith, the basics of our faith. This guy who's a deacon needs to at least have that under, and have that as part of his faith.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, this is a very beautiful passage that explains this whole marvelous thing of salvation. I don't know about you guys, but I know that sometimes it's easy to let this fade into the background. Whereas in some ways, we need to every day stop and say, wow, I'm a child of God. How does that happen? What a great mystery. What a great blessing that it is. And that's tied up in here, the people of character that come, that they're going to hold the mystery of our faith. It's mysterious. It's hard, some of it, to understand. How could God love us so much and all that? Some other things that go with this. I thought this is interesting in verse 10, that they should be tested. Now, of course, I don't know exactly what they mean tested, except to say, given a task and told to do it, and see if they do it. That's before you actually name them as a deacon. And if they prove to be somebody worthy of that, then I think that's a good testing area. It's a good way to be sure that they will do that. You know, I'm not sure why. I guess it'd be a little harder to test an elder before becoming an elder, but an elder is already displaying some of those characteristics of shepherding, it would seem to me.
I always thought that's why we said, we'll give you 2 weeks to object to this guy being an elder or deacon. And that was the way we in the church over the years have responded to this testing.
Yeah.
And testing by putting his name out to the congregation and see if there's any problems.
Right.
I don't think that's what it means, but I don't have objection to the 2 weeks, but I don't think that's what it means.
Yeah, again, we don't have the step-by-step what it means and how to test, but it would seem that there is some sense of proving that this person not only appears to have the characteristics, but is tested, about that, and will respond and be responsible in it. And then again, I mentioned this: the women. Again, the Greek verb, the Greek noun, I should say, is a word that can mean either woman or wife, and that's often, I guess, a little bit of the difficulty. But it does seem within the context, since he's talking about that a deacon has to be the husband of one wife, that it would seem to be better translated here that the wives. It's not selecting some unmarried woman who got good characteristics, but to be considered as a deacon. It doesn't seem to me to fit in the context of what he's saying, and it doesn't really fit with the rest of the descriptions that we see biblically. There are lots, by the way, I think I say this later too, I'm jumping ahead of myself in a lot of ways, but, the very essence of being Christ is to serve. Is that not right? Jesus gave an example right before he died. What was that example? John chapter 13.
Wash the feet.
Wash the feet. And then he said, as I have done to you, do you also to others. And then he spoke about, I give you a new commandment. What is that? It's to love each other. How do you show that? To serve. So all I'm trying to say here, there's a sense that all of us serve. But this is a special serving, a special designated appointment because of who you are, and that's important. And again, the husband of one wife, again, there's some, that means only one wife at the time. Some people argue that you could be married several times and you only got one wife at the moment. I'm not sure that's the emphasis of the passage, but it does say the husband of one wife. Now, verse 12 says, manage, maintain, or rule their children. In other words, have their children under control. And again, most of the time we deal with that in terms of, well, as long as they're in the house and they're in the household, then that has to go. But then again, once they move out, maybe that can't still be part of that. But that is an interesting idea. Paul says in Titus that elders' children must be believers, that we pointed out a while ago, in verse 6 of chapter 1 of Titus, as he kind of goes through the qualifications for elders. And again, we might compare Acts 6, 1-7, which we've already done. So, man, we're just moving along like great guns today. So, it is good to keep in mind that service is the very essence of love, which I've also already said. Now, you remember what groups you're in? All right? So, could we have, so you're number 1, right? Could we have number ones come up here with David? Number twos is Kelly. Kelly, we probably need you to move down a little bit. And then, number three, Rian, right? So if you want to maybe come over, or if y'all want to move over here, and then we'll have group three right back there. So all the ones right here with David, all the twos right there with Kelly, and Rian right over here. So let's get into our groups, and then we got some questions
I'm a two.
that we need to
Oh,
ask.
of course you are.
And I'm sorry,
Where
we're
are you?
splitting up probably husbands and wives. That's not done intentionally to indicate anything.
I don't know if they're right here. You'd have to move three back there. Oh, no, they got, fans.
It would be good.
At least they got
I
ads.
nominated you in the last group.
Sorry, Keith, for making you walk all the way across the room.
Sorry, sorry.
Keith, the two as well?
I'm a two.
All right, the reason for the one, twos, and threes is simply to get us in a little bit smaller group so we can talk. Okay, that's the whole idea. It's not anything, I didn't come in and number anything, nothing to do with that. So, for group discussion, we've got a series of questions. I want to give you about 4 minutes to discuss each one. It's the idea is just get it out, talk about it, come to some conclusions. You may want to have somebody, if you can, note down a couple of your key points from it. But the first question is, how should church be defined? Why am I asking that question? Because this is about building a church. All right, what is that? What does that mean? So, go. You got about 3 or 4 minutes. How do you define church? And by the way, we're looking for a little bit more than just that. Ecclesia means the called out ones, okay? Right, yeah. All right, so discuss what church means. Well, that was a good start.
Called out as the ones who were in the world but are now estranged from this body. Whether there's some idea of a separation.
Oh, I'm sorry, you could have tolerated that.
Look, I shed blood for this, okay?
Oh, well, there you go. Some of us may have a greater sacrifice than others, right?
What are the church to me though, like,
World is churches, where people are trying to make one part of the rest of the church.
did the city have elders in church? Or did the individual church always feel like it probably city church, house church? That's one of those.
There is something else we're talking about. We have organizations about
Macro city church, micro.
I don't know what people who are here all the time.
I know.
Okay, you got it?
They wanted to have.
Will you look up the next one? Yeah. You're so good at Googling.
Okay. Group one, it's a couple ideas about how do you define church.
Ask ChatGPT.
We said called out or a group of believers.
Group of believers, okay? Group two, that's here, sorry.
Yeah, and us too, we said a body of believers.
Okay, body of believers. Group three,
Group of sinners.
a group of sinners who believe. Yeah, all right. All right, okay, again, the idea is we take a lot of stuff for granted. And the point is what do we really think of when we think of church? And I would say that most of us are probably don't always think of church in the way we should, but I like the group of believers, a group of sinners. You know, we're just, this is just, the church is just a hospital for sick people and we're trying to get well, okay? Those are all great ideas. Let's go to the next question, though, okay? Next question is, why does a church need elders? I kind of brought this up at the close of class last week, so I thought I'd just go with it. Discuss why a church needs elders. Go. You got some elders sitting in your group, so we did that pretty well, didn't we? We got at least one elder in every group.
What do we do?
Keep you busy in your time.
Well, I was talking about last week, elders are leaders, they're overseers, they're shepherds, more or less. Somebody doesn't take care of everybody trying to set their own. Somebody needs to say, this is the way we're gonna go.
Because you would have an elder, you didn't, and then.
It's just, it should all be taken care of.
Congregation that struggles on feeling like they accomplish but yet they still have leaders within the church that kind of direct it, they kind of
Tried, yeah.
more or less it was kind of that forming group of people that kind of got together. Kind of Madison County started, right? Just a group of people decided they were going to have a church, close around there, and started kind of morphed into that.
I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
Somebody will be, yes, supporting you. You know, and seeing an example and the way that they lead and shepherd other people, I think really is good for generations to come behind y'all. What they do in the church.
Someone that consider, I think elders.
Kind of issues. Preachers, that elder.
Also, Ray Hawk was it? I've never thought it was really good church. Sometimes even for them, because you just don't want to, you know, even if they don't want us to.
Important things, you know, we're talking
You
about.
almost force them, well, you got to, you're here tomorrow, you're here tomorrow. You're here tomorrow. And they, oh yeah, oh yeah.
You can miss a meeting, and all of a sudden, something different.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like none of y'all know what's going on.
Leadership, direction. I think that's kind of the compass to the life of the church, is that they kind of watch this one follow as God laid forth the church should be. Stand to that, and looking for those deviations that are going to. That's what makes it difficult.
The elder says, I want to talk to you, you get nervous.
Right, like, you might know, let's talk right now. I don't want to think about it out
Let's
loud.
get it out.
Right, just let me say what's happening.
But that is, I think,
Okay, 30 seconds.
the qualifications fall into that. You have to be temperate, you have to be able to listen, you have to be able to dissect and not digest those things that happen. I mean, I look at it.
Convert comes and trying to mention because they're enthusiastic and young, they may not have listened or depth of understanding of it. So it's lucky that
Okay, group 2, you got an answer? The answer? What do you got?
Leadership, and we said that really the key word in there is elders, plural, instead of an elder. Because then you would end up with more like a pastor, dictator, a CEO.
Okay.
And we have felt that the power of the Spirit is greater among the elders than among an elder. When we have discussions, disagreements, decisions, that's more than you probably want to hear.
No, it's great. I think the idea is we just need to talk about it. You know, kind of stick, because I don't know that I've ever been asked, well, you know, we started a brand new church, and we thought one day we're going to have elders, and it's like, why? Again, maybe it's obvious, but it seems good to ask questions. Group number 3 back, yes, 3 back there. What was your answer? Why do we need elders?
Just from a leadership standpoint, if you don't pick people that you want to lead you, then somebody else might.
Okay? And that certainly is, what you're saying comes out of the here in 1 Timothy, where the idea is that they need to help prevent false teachers from coming out. And that's, of course, Timothy's being told that, but the idea of having that, that's good. Anything else? I got it, group number 3, group number 1.
We said what they said.
All in agreement, all the way across the room, huh? Okay. So the sense of this, now, I just want us to know, you know what we say sometimes. We're going to appoint men to the office of an elder. Well, I know what we mean, and you do too, but is it an office? Or is it a ministry? Is it shepherding? Or is it sitting over in the barn waiting for somebody else to do it? I think that's the case. Once again, our terminology sometimes gets us confused about what actually should take place. Leadership is good. The shepherding idea. We just a while ago said we're a group of sinners, so a group of sinners are going to need folks to help point us and bring us back, right? So why should we be surprised if an elder comes to me and says, hey, brother, we need to talk to you? And you probably do. Why? Because I got stuff I need to be right. And boy, that would be great. That's just the good thoughts. So anyway, good thoughts, and we can expand on them later. Next question, you might have guessed what it is. So why does a church need deacons? All right, go. Why does a church need deacons? Because nobody's going to serve and do nothing if they don't have deacons, right?
Sort of messed up in that regard.
Well, they need to take that burden off the elders. They don't need elders. I think that we should have a meeting before. Before the point. They were chosen.
I think historically, appointed deacons have been trying to develop a need as opposed to the fact that they were the need arose and they found it didn't take care of the need. And that's what I think we need to do, is we're trying to do this instead of making everybody qualified to do the job. We tried to think about where we had needs and then put deacons in those spots. Contrary to wherever church I live, we got a couple kids here, we get done. Well, no, what's not happening needs to happen. Who had the passion to do it? Well, sir, so, she's still not a perfect model, but I think better.
It's kind of like when you go to a record class.
Is what we've done in short.
That as churches bigger, the administrative work gets bigger. And if they're not careful, elders get attracted to that because any involvement.
Exactly.
Shepherd and deacon are dealing with this kind of support, this kind of.
They choose to be a part of it, right?
That's hard.
And they need to have that contact.
Dealing with the carpet and the air conditioning.
The elders are the kind of guide that,
So we have to kind of,
yes, or no, we don't have
You
to.
said that, but I said, last week, I opened, I said, about time to have a deacon meeting. Larry said, I got a ball, then I told him, he was already.
Well, I think it's just good to get to know what's going on. I mean,
we have stuff done by more than a week
from
from
our
our staff.
ministry, there's a lot of stuff goes on all the time.
Some churches have elders and everything.
Because they're not aware of that. We don't go to them every time something comes up, we wear them out.
That's more than little
You're
churches.
taking that burden from them. There's things that they don't, they need to know that's going on. They don't
We
have
hadn't
to,
talked about it,
they
but
don't have to dispute it.
the qualifications for deacons, they never
Trust.
anything that says.
There have been times when we had assignments, we had, what we call those things, we had boxes, pillars, we had pillars, right? A bunch of them. And all the pillars were getting attention and people weren't doing things and it just kind of fizzled out, So we went a long time without a lot of deacons, although some of them.
Well, we had deacons, but they had no role. They had, we just didn't have the need, and then it was each deacon.
I made him a deacon, he didn't really have a job, so they made him a deacon over county. County government people showed up for sure.
Sorry, David, I overheard you. Mike said
And
you
it's not
count on
anything,
him.
because we had to sign things to us. Right, right. When things need to be done, there's.
Okay, we got deacons resolved? More or less? I think group three's up next as soon as Jeff finishes his last thing there.
I get to go first?
Oh, group
Well, yeah,
three,
group three's up first, so. So why do we need deacons?
We feel that it is important to have somebody that will get the work done and not, I guess, bog down the elders that help with your shepherding. Someone that, you know, will take care of the flock in the right way and in a helpful way. So, I don't know, not a real good explanation, but that's kind of thing, so. I said I did okay.
So how can we disagree with an elder, you know? Okay, group one, why do we need deacons?
Much the same reason, but just to get things done. Yeah. Just to basically get things done. Bible doesn't say what a deacon's supposed to do, so we're kind of left wide open trying to figure out what they should do. But they should do something.
Well, that's, in the same article that I quoted at the beginning, at the end, he had a whole list of things that deacons are supposed to do, and I thought, well, that fits pretty much culturally into our identification of it. Not sure that all those are exactly right, but, you know, well, there are jobs. Right.
Well, if you say the Acts 6 guys were deacons, then benevolence
Yeah.
would be an area for deacons, but we don't, you know, and I think you could probably learn a lot about the role of a deacon from Acts chapter 6, whether or not they're deacons or not. And so benevolence is a good example of what a deacon could do.
Benevolence is one of those things to put out there and to let the elders shepherd spiritually, and so they take care of the benevolent part or other things. So that's good. Group two, would you have something to add to the deacon's idea?
Well, the only thing we talked a little bit about, the Acts model, it looks like they had a need and filled it with the deacon. And historically, we've made men deacons and then looked for the need.
Okay.
So I was telling our group, at least, that when we appointed deacons recently, we tried to do the Acts model of what needs to be done that's not getting done, that needs attention. Instead of having 50 deacons and not knowing what their needs were, we tried to identify the needs, which we felt was a little more biblical than historically the way we had done it. So that's really all we can really, I guess. Anything else, Kenny?
I'm just like something I was just thinking about. So like the church is made up of just the people that are following Christ. So why does the church need deacons? Well, it's good for the deacons to be deacons because that forces them to be servants. And you know, we a lot of times have left to our own things and left to not being prodded to do something good, we just take the path of least resistance and therefore not serve because it's easier not to do anything. And so it's good for the people of the church to have roles to fill, to urge us to help focus us into the work of the church.
That's good, that's good. A lot of that, isn't that the wisdom of God in helping us see, to serve, to work, to shepherd, to take care of each other. By the way, it is 7:23, so if you had to go to class to pick up kids, you're a little late, but it's all right. All right, we've got one last question, and we'll kind of do this one as a thing. Now, I've got a little something special at the end. You may want to pull your chairs back around because I've got a little video I want to share. It's just something that impacted me. It doesn't really have to do with the topic, but it has to do with us as people of God. But anyway, the last question I had up here, should it be the goal of the church to have elders and deacons? That's a little trick question.
Are we doing this as a big group?
Huh?
Are we doing this in the big
Yeah,
group?
just speak up wherever you are.
You can have a church and not have elders and deacons. I think all of us have been a part of a church, probably. Most of us have been a part of a church that might be described that way. I grew up in a little church that didn't have, I don't know if they ever had elders before I went to college.
So the key word, though, is it a goal? Is that our goal?
When you say the goal, no. But
Okay.
can it be a goal?
It might be a goal, okay, something we strive for. It'll, sorry?
I think it would show growth if we were
Okay.
spreading the word
growth and
The
maturity.
congregation gets larger, the
Right.
Well, I did a weekend kind of leadership training thing in the Bahamas years ago. It was tough duty, but somebody had to do it. And one of the problems they have there is that they saw the need for elders and deacons, but they just had trouble finding men who are qualified. And I think they wanted me to whip them into shape, which I didn't. But, you know, that was, you might want to have elders and deacons, but I think it'd be better to do without them than to have bad ones.
Okay, that's a good piece of wisdom. All right, I just thought that maybe the last part of this, so I guess, David, you're on next week, or is it?
What's that?
You on next week?
I'm on next week. I
Okay.
have no idea what.
So we'll finish with chapter 3, but one of the things I wanted to bring out, as I point out up here, Paul goes on after the deacon's qualifications, and he says, I hope to come to you soon, but I'm writing these instructions to you so that, if I'm delayed, you may know how one ought to behave in the household of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and bulwark of the truth. Great indeed, we confess, is the mystery, and here it uses of our religion, but it's of our godliness, of our faith. He was manifested in the flesh, vindicated in the spirit, seen by angels, preached among the nations, believed on in the world, taken up in glory. Our goal is to glorify Christ and to keep faithful to that, to the mystery of our religion. And part of that can be, obviously, the naming of elders and congregations so that it can be taken care of, and the naming of deacons so that we can serve each other. But this passage, I think, is really good, but sometimes all we do is just look at the qualifications. Yeah, we talk about it, say we might be needing to do that, or typically we only review them when we're about ready to name elders or deacons, trying to see if that's the case. So just an encouragement for us to think about the practicality of all of this. Now, I've got something I want to share. Again, this is just more on the sense of just Christian life. Again, I guess many of you have seen The Chosen, and you may remember in this section is I don't know, it's almost maybe the next to the last one. This is an imaginary scene where Jesus is calling Thaddeus to come and follow him. Again, it's not biblical, but there was so much about it that struck me. I just thought I would give you, as a closing thought tonight, a word of encouragement. Just listen to it and think about what Jesus is telling Thaddeus, because I think there's just a lot of truth to it. So let me see if I can get this thing to play after it's been sitting here a while. Can everybody see it okay? If you can't, you may need to move.
Leave with me tonight. Final offer. You have it made now. A new kingdom. Eternal value. What's the pay? The pay? Yes, the income, the daily rate, housing arrangements, but you have that all worked out? There is no pay. At least not in the earthly sense. I'm a rabbi. And I'm asking you to follow me. It was nice meeting you. You'd be part of changing the world. Become part of a family not of relatives, but of blood bonds just the same. Spend your days with some of the most interesting, unfettered, funny, driven, brave, nurturing, smart, strong, passionate, fiery, loyal, loving, imperfect people to ever walk the earth. You will see. And do things you cannot imagine. You will be adored, hated, needed, lost, and found.
attractive thing maybe, but it caused me to think, you know, in my life, you know, just about this, and as we read these passages, to come to life, and it says it comes back to this. Will we follow him? And will we obey him? We will give up everything so that we can find all that we need. I just wanted to leave you with those thoughts tonight. So, again, I don't remember what episode that is, but I watched a lot of it. There's some good stuff, but this struck me. So for whatever it's worth, you can go back and listen to it again with a little more caution. God bless you. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you for being here tonight.
Survive not being around.
Do I?
You said where you just walked some longer in this.
You found her, people.
That's my favorite.
Well, and the other one, the Lazarus.
Really enjoyed working with you the other day.
And Lazarus.
They're good people.
Nicodemus, I'm sorry.
Yes, that part really bothered Jason, not me. But our small group was, like on Wednesday, Sunday nights at this Angie Newsom's house, but we're at the end of season 4. Wait, Jason, we've seen it all.
We haven't seen season
We haven't?
Okay, well, so it's a little excerpt from it, but.
You just hold it for
I'll
us.
see to the same, I'll see, seen that, I remember Jesus having that thing on his head.
Yeah.
You seen the whole series 5 though?
I think we like one.
Did they make it to the crucifixion or no?
So far, we haven't seen it. I think this is the last one I saw. I think there's one other episode ready, at
So
least.
they're not gonna make it to the crucifixion
No,
this
I
season?
don't think so.
I just hope they keep going with it. I hope they keep following after it follows the disciples and keep, it is the chosen.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I hope it keeps going.
Keeps going.
It is, but it's, if I
Oh,
can
no.
give my kids all to watch the whole thing, you know, this thing, this is.
He was talking about Nicodemus, and I said, that really affected you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
When And this got to me because here, he's combining a lot of his teachings all at once.
Right.
And he wouldn't necessarily tell
no,
them that.
which one were you talking about, Nicodemus, when he met with him out on the?
Yeah, when he went to him by night, you know. and-
I thought during the first season when he left the money. And he,
Oh, yeah.
He was behind the corner crying.
Because he wanted to go. but
Mhm. Yeah, that's
couldn't
part
go
of it.
there. Yeah,
He really liked.
yeah. Well,
It's
I
good.
said, y'all see the part
it's
where
just very thought
he just
provoking.
walked
Again,
the
we
laundry,
know
yeah,
that
you
it's
seen
not
that?
we
The
completely
one you have to go back and
accurate,
watch
but
that. It was so powerful. I cried. It was powerful. It was DC, and they did it really, really well. And
In
you
a way,
look
that
and,
you can watch
you
it
know,
on
they're all
TV
terrified, and you
without,
see like
and
this
people
blurry
say take liberty, but that's.
silhouette in the background. I mean, it's good.
There's, it's
It
okay to say
really
this
did,
man.
but I just.
yeah.
Oh.
Like this, that is probably, we don't have any recording, but man, he says right there what it takes to be to follow him. I mean, it's just, it's at the very beginning of this, after that they play the music, but it's just, this is
It's so good.
a, yeah.
You know, I mean, like when Raymond got killed, you know, that's not,
Yeah.
you know, when that has happened.
Well, we graduated from our-
Absolutely.
I mean, did that affect, does that affect the gospel because he put it in the shelter?
No, I mean, we do it all the time. Sometimes we tell the kids a story, well, a Bible story, tell them about it, so a little bit here, a little bit there, whether it's true or not, we don't know. Maybe it is, but it doesn't take away from it.
Allison,
And we have to get to that.